If you took all of the things on your baby registry list and added them up, how much money would it amount to? Do you have a baby registry filled with items that people in your life have told you you need? Once all of this stuff comes into your house, is your house just going to be filled with baby items for a human being that really mostly just needs to be close to their parents, to feed, to have a safe place to sleep, and to have diapers changed regularly? So if you have been obsessing over your baby registry, getting everything ready for your sprinkle or your baby shower, or just for that time when your baby comes, I have a real treat. I've invited friend, colleague, former client, founder of Empowered Birth Coaching and Registry Rehab on for the next 12 days. Her name is Lisa. She's amazing. She has lots of evidence-based information, and we're going to put our two brains together for 12 days in a row until December 24th to give you amazing information about how to best prepare for your baby and the items that you are combing through for that baby registry. And we hope to help you to recognize that what you need on your baby registry is support. What you need is to set yourself up to reach out to the people who are going to be most helpful to you once you have that baby in your arms. So welcome to the Milk Making Minutes 12 Days of Postpartum Christmas. I'm your host, Lo Nigrosh, IBCLC and Childbirth Educator, on a mission to uncover the barriers that make breastfeeding so difficult. Okay. So I'm back here with this, and the next thing that I want to talk about with you is formula and formula dispensers. So formula and anything you might use to go with formula. And this is a hot topic.
It sure is.
Especially trying to decide formula. So there are a lot of people who want to get formula in the prenatal period, just in case, and I know a lot of people, and I even as an IBCLC, I would not discourage one bottle of, one can of formula or one container of formula if you are a person who is highly anxious. Yeah. So if you are somebody who feels like, you know what, if I cannot feed my baby and I'm really struggling, and for whatever reason, I'm not producing enough milk, and I am trying to get the help, but my baby is hungry right now, and you think having a can of formula is going to help ease your anxiety about this, then great, get it. But talk to me a little bit about what you have learned, and I'll tell you what I've learned as well about the variety in formula companies, formula marketing, and then all of the things like formula dispensers that might come with that formula marketing.
Yeah, I think that formula and accessibility need to kind of go hand in hand. So when I'm doing a registry consult and somebody will ask, what's the best formula I should buy? I always say the best formula you can buy is the one that is affordable for your family, it's accessible for your family, and it's something that you can find easily locally. I actually tell clients to go to the grocery store, and every time they're shopping prenatally, just go over to the formula section and see what's there on the regular, so that they are really making it specific to what's accessible for them. Everybody's aware of the shortage that we had. It's important to know what is at my fingertips, and that my family can afford. So that's kind of the first thing that I say as a tip. What I don't love about some of the marketing out there seems to be preying on some fear. And I don't typically agree with that. I think that, having some formula on hand, like you said, is never a bad thing. But when the companies are coming at us to say things like, your life will be made easier, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think that that aligns with everyone's goals, and it doesn't feel
Mm,
right to me.
right. Yeah. 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 And when it comes to formula marketing, now maybe this will be a whole other podcast episode that I do at some point, but formula marketing has been very heavy since essentially World War II, when a lot of women were joining the workforce and were not able to provide breast milk to their babies while somebody else was caring for them. And formula marketing has become so strong that even the training that medical students receive about baby feeding often is designed by formula companies. And many times when pediatricians go to baby feeding seminars, they are sponsored by formula companies. So even if it's a breastfeeding focused seminar, it will have been paid for and presented by formula companies. And so that's really something to be aware of, that they have infiltrated every part of the baby feeding market, and they have um, purposefully created this fear that you are talking about. And if anybody wants to learn more about this, I'll have a book linked in the show notes called The Big Letdown by Kimberly Seals Allers. She's a journalist. She's a breastfeeding advocate. She's a powerhouse in the birth world. She has a birth app for women of color called Earth. Um, she's amazing. I've gotten to attend conferences where she was the keynote speaker several times. She wrote this book, and it is all about how um, feeding our babies human milk has been undermined, not just by formula companies, but by a variety of factors. And so if you are interested in why feeding our babies is so difficult now, that's a great read. So just know that formula companies, they will market things like try to say it's the closest to breast milk, or try to say that they've added certain ingredients that will be better for your baby's development. And this is just not the case. So I love your advice to people to be looking to see what is accessible, what is affordable, um, what you can access in your area, because that is going to help people ground themselves in what is going to be easy in the postpartum period, and not what is going to be that magic bullet that is going to make your baby smarter or stronger or be the most like breast milk. Because the reality of it is a breast milk replacement,
Right.
um, because babies are supposed to take breast milk. That's how they evolved. So I'm so glad we have other ways of feeding babies when that doesn't work out, given how little support we get. And it is not going to be the same as breast milk. It is going to be
Right.
different.
Right. And I think couple of things. I know that I'd love to chat with you more on the topic of donor milk, but that comes up a lot in my registry consultations because I don't think
Mm,
that that's widely understood, where to get it, how to access it, what the benefits of that might be. So I like to throw that in there when we're talking about formula options, because I just like to make sure that a family is aware that there are more than one way of feeding a baby if you're unable to do it from your own body or from parental milk. And then I know you had asked me about formula dispensers. And again, this is another hot topic. And I think it's because formula dispensers these companies make a lot of claims. And if we're going to talk about formula and advertising, I think we have to talk about these dispensers. So again, typically big footprint, expensive piece of equipment that sits on your countertop and is, you know, advertised as a handy tool to prepare formula for your infant. And the truth of the matter is, many of these have been recalled. Many of these have been known to not properly mix the formula or not have the water at the right temperature. Um, and that alone is to me dangerous. So,
Mhm.
if you're trying to make parents' lives easier and you're marketing an expensive product to do that, and in reality, we are preparing formula incorrectly, which could be dangerous and harmful to an infant, that does not feel right to me. Um,
Yeah.
the convenience myth is real. And I talk
Mhm.
about the convenience myth a lot when it comes to baby registries, because the truth of the matter is, I have a fabulous do it yourself jar method. And I won't get into all the specifics here, but I try to tell my clients there are easier, simpler, way less expensive ways of properly preparing formula.
Mm.
And I just want to make sure they know that they don't have to have a fancy, expensive dispenser. They don't have to have that.
Right.
Not to mention, Baby Brezza makes a common dispenser that a lot of people put on their registries, and they, in the instruction manual, will say you need to take this entire contraption apart and sanitize it thoroughly after every 3 bottles made.
Mm.
That
Mhm.
is ludicrous in my mind.
Yeah.
And I would bet that parents are either not doing that because they're not aware that that's what the instructions say, or they are doing it and driving themselves absolutely crazy, because again, that's a lot of extra workload.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That is so true. And it is important when you're using whatever formula you use to follow the instructions on the can
Yeah.
and to use filtered water or to boil your water before you put the formula in, which sucks because it's extra time, but just use a tea kettle, for instance,
Yes.
like, yeah. Now there are things before we move on from formula. Every parent has to make the decision for themselves what is important to them and what isn't as important. So, for my family, for instance, my kids eat tons of candy and not tons, but I'm not like super restrictive. I like my kids to kind of learn what feels good for their body and what doesn't.
Yep.
And so, different added ingredients or different types of ingredients, different things are important to different people based on what your values are. And so, I don't want anyone to feel like, guilty or feel like they've done something wrong if their values don't align with somebody else's values. But
Right.
it is important to know that there are differences in formula and you can read the labels to figure out what is in the formula and which formulas have the ingredients that most align with your food values or your environmental values, for instance.
Yeah.
So, some have synthetic flavors or colorings. For some people, that's not a problem. For other people, they really don't want, the formula to have a synthetic coloring if it doesn't need to. There are things too, like the type of sugar. Some formula companies, the best sugar is lactose, of course, but some companies add maltodextrin or high fructose corn syrup because they want the formula to taste a little sweeter. But as we know, this can lead to long term um, preferences for highly sweet foods, for instance. And so just looking, what are they using to sweeten the formula and what is the percentage or the grams of sugar in each can, and does that align with what your values are? Some people, they don't want to worry about it. They just want to
Right.
know that what they've selected is what they've selected, and they're going to know that their kids are going to be eating goldfish off the floor anyway in just about a year. So it might not matter to them as much, but for other people, it might matter. The other thing to look out for is the type of oil that's used. So, we know that oils like olive oil are a little healthier than oils like canola oil or vegetable oils. And so look and see what type of oil is in there. And then there's things like palm oil, which is really problematic environmentally because rainforests are being destroyed to use palm oil. So if that's a value for you, look at whatever brand that you are selecting to see what's in there. Some formulas, especially if you're looking at a soy formula option over a milk protein formula, have GMOs in them. And so, for some people, that's not problematic. I bring these things up is because some people have a lot of trouble deciding which formula to get. And if you have specific values related to some of these categories, that will help you narrow down what your choices are, because
Yeah.
a lot of people feel really overwhelmed with how many choices there are. And they don't know where to start to try to make that decision.
Yeah. I love that because I think that's across the board when we're talking registry consultations, registry audits, prepping for the fourth trimester. I would never want anybody listening to the 12 Christmas, the 12 days of Christmas to think that I don't support a family's decisions, because that is most important to me, is that whatever we're putting on that registry and however we're preparing for the fourth trimester is aligned with that family's goal. So I'm here to offer suggestions and say, this is what I've seen and this is how I feel, but it is bias because it's my own opinion. I just want to be helpful. So yeah, I agree with that sentiment. That's the lens we need to be looking through with every single item.
If a family has particular values related to this, then they may need to um, decide what are the most important values and
Yes,
then go with that.
absolutely.
If somebody says to me, "What is the best formula that you recommend?" I do not have a specific answer.
Me either.
In the same as with anything I do. If somebody comes to me and says my baby has been refusing the breast, or my baby has been refusing the bottle, or I have low milk supply, or I have high milk supply, or I've been getting recurrent plug ducts or mastitis, I can't just give you a standard answer. Which, if you go on a Facebook group, you ask that question and 10 people will tell you 10 different things. And the reason why, as a professional, I cannot give you a standard answer is because I need to know a lot of details about you, about your family, about your situation, about your goals, about your health history before I can provide an answer to you about which formula I might recommend. So, again, if you are looking to get these questions answered, do a prenatal consultation with me or with another trusted IBCLC, because that would be one of the things that we could go over if it's important to you. And I could provide you some options based on the answers to the questions that I ask you to understand what your individual situation is.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more because, on the outside, I offer gift registry consultations, but obviously, if you know me, my passion is not talking about baby products. My
Mm,
passion is starting the conversation with new parents who may have not thought about what aligns with their goals because they haven't thought about their priorities. And once we
mhm.
get into this, it's like I see these light bulbs going off like, oh, well, the environmental concerns are in our top priorities. So we're going to choose to cloth diaper. Or they may say the ingredients on the formula can are our top priority. So we are going to choose this formula. Those are the conversations that I'm trying to spark.
I
And
love that.
that's really what it's all about. I know on the surface, it sounds a lot like I'm really invested in baby product companies and baby products and making sure you have all the right handy dandy things, but it's not. It's about
Mm,
being prepared for the fourth trimester, and really the reason I love doing this with you, Lo, is it's because these products, they're not as valuable or valuable at all without pairing them with the right support.
I love that.
It's
Awesome.
true.
Yeah, it really is. Awesome. Okay. Thank you for talking to me about formula. We all want to be prepared to be able to feed our babies and feel at ease while doing so in the postpartum period. And the best way for you to prepare for that right now is not by selecting which type of formula you will get, but by preparing for the choices you make during delivery of your baby, so that once you are holding your sweet son or daughter in your arms, that you feel like you made the best choices possible given your unique individual situation, and so that you have the right people on your care team to help you think about those decisions in a way that doesn't make you scared or upset, but that helps you decide what is right for your family. And one way to make sure you know how to do this is to go to my website, www.quabandbirthservices.com, click on courses, sign up for my course called Childbirth Education for a Great Postpartum. We're going to go through all your birth options. Don't worry. We're going to figure out birth settings and the pros and cons of each. We're going to talk about the hormones present during birth and the postpartum period, but all of it is going to be through the lens of how can you feel as good as possible during the postpartum period and setting up your team so that you feel good. Let's not be blindsided by the postpartum period anymore. We can feel prepared. Can't wait to see you in the course.